beach, and we're just like being really careful not to go too deep because the waves and the ocean was just so strong. It was pulling us across and pulling us in. And it was only just last summer, it reminded me of this because it was so powerful. It reminded me just last summer, we took the youth up to Kings Beach. And while we're in Kings Beach, I was just standing there watching our youth swim, and I saved 3 people from drowning. There was 2 kids, I've told this story before, that were just floating past. And there's a dad way down there frantically running after the kids. And so I just jumped in, went across, pulled these kids out of the rip and saved their life in that space there. But then there was another man who was even worse, an Indian tourist. And he was actually floating past me, and he was actually under the water. You know those people that when they're under the water and they're gasping like this, and then they're under again. You don't see him for a bit, then they're like this again. He was in that place there. He was literally drowning, filling up his lungs with water. So I jumped in, grabbed him, pulled him across to save him. And it's interesting though, I remember the words that I spoke to him at the time as I come to grab him. The words I spoke to him at the time were this. I said, just relax, I've got you. Just relax, I've got you. And I thought to myself, as I was thinking about this message, that it's interesting words in such a tense, dire situation where a guy is drowning, just saying to him, just relax. Just relax. And he couldn't do anything apart from panic at the time because he's in this place. My life is being threatened here and you're telling me just to relax. I've got you. And so he was in that place there. What was interesting, the choice of words in such a bad situation. However, it was imperative for his survival that he actually listened and did what I said. If he kept struggling, if he kept trying to pull me under, we're both gone. But he needed to do what I said, what I instructed him to relax, I've got you. And it was almost an hour and a half after. I didn't think much of it. I pulled him in and got him to stand up, just stood with him for a while and helped him into shore and whatnot. And then about an hour and a half later, he and his wife sought me out on the beach. And they come up to me and thanking me, saying, thank you so much. You saved my life. Thank you. You saved my husband's life. And so I gave them my bank details and said, if you're really grateful, just kidding. Just kidding. But there's a story that's really similar in the Bible. And the disciples have experienced Jesus casting out demons just before this. They haven't been with Jesus long, but they've already seen him cast out demons, doing all sorts of miracles. They've heard his profound teachings that nobody else was teaching like Jesus. And they've heard his profound teachings. And they've seen huge crowds start to follow Jesus. I don't know about you, but it would have been pretty exciting to be one of Jesus' disciples in the early days. It would have been pretty exciting that he said, come follow me. And then all these things are happening. All these crowds are following. And these are the 12 guys that are closest to Jesus. They got front row seats seeing exactly what Jesus is doing. And I reckon if the disciples all had Instagram accounts, they would have millions of followers themselves. Because they'll be vlogging everything that Jesus was doing. But here's the deal. I don't think that Jesus would have had an Instagram account himself. Because whenever he did miracles, he's like, don't tell anyone about it. Just be quiet about it. But you can see the disciples are here seeing everything Jesus is doing, going, wow, this is amazing. This is awesome. The wonder of what Jesus is doing. But you see, Jesus wasn't doing any of this to impress anybody. He didn't heal anyone, cast out demons to impress anyone. Rather, for his disciples, he was preparing them. And just for a moment, I want to just divert from where I'm going, just to say this. I want to say, don't just be learning when you're at school. For any kids that are here, you're learning while you're at school, but don't just let school be the place that you learn or university. Don't let church be the only place that you learn about God. Don't let your own study, even your own Bible reading, be the only place that you learn about God. I don't know if anyone here remembers Reggie Dabbs. He used to be an evangelist youth preacher. And every time he'd jump up, he'd say, I'm not a learned man, but my mum used to always say to me, let the world be your university. Let the whole world, let life be your university. And so I want to encourage each and every person here, don't just learn how God works in church and through reading the Bible, but experience his workings in life. Learn as much from what God does as much as what he doesn't do. Are you hearing me today? Learn from as much as he does from what he doesn't do. Discover his hidden attributes in nature, the beauty, the wonder. Like when I was swimming, I literally said to Corey, who was swimming with me, I literally said to him, how's the power of the ocean. I'm like, this isn't even a storm. This isn't even raging, but it was just so powerful. And I was just like, how powerful is God? Just my mind just went there, just like, we're discovering the power of God just through something so small that he created. But let's go back to where we're going with this story. I think Jesus realized that his disciples at this point had been with him for a little while, but I think he realized his disciples were missing opportunities to learn and increase their faith in the everyday. They were missing the opportunities. They were what we call in sport ball watching, or some people will say maybe stargazing. What we mean by that, if you're ball watching in a sport, it means that you're too busy watching where the ball is and you forget to move and do what you're meant to do. Stargazing is you're watching a star on the other team going, wow, aren't they awesome? And you realize, you go, oh, hang on a sec, I was meant to get a rebound, or I was meant to be somewhere else, or I wasn't there for the pass in rugby. And we end up just stargazing. We're just watching what's going on instead of remembering what we're meant to do in the game. You see, the disciples early on were just watching and marveling at what Jesus was doing instead of learning. They were just watching and marveling instead of learning. And I don't think Jesus wants us to marvel at what he does, but rather get in the game and be participators in what he's doing. He wants us to participate in that. John chapter 14 verse 12 says this, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing. So we see the works that Jesus is doing. We will do the works that he's doing, but he says this, and they will do even greater things than these because I'm going to my Father in heaven. So he's saying, don't just watch, but do. Don't just watch, but do. Jesus doesn't want you just to see and experience. This is what we like to be as Christians. We like to experience his power in our life, that he would change our lives in that. He wants us to see his power, but he wants you to do them yourself. And even greater than anything he did here on this earth. Now, I'll tell you this. I had an apprentice once, but if all he ever did every day of his 4-year apprenticeship was just watch me work, we got a problem. Is that right? If he just stands there going, good digging, Sean, you're doing a great job, we got a problem. You see, if an apprentice just watches his boss the whole time, there's certain things he can learn. But when he leaves that apprenticeship and goes to work on his own, he won't have any idea how to do everything himself unless he's actually done it himself. Unless he's been doing the work himself. You see, Jesus is about to set his disciples up for a rude awakening in the story we're about to go. Our text today is Mark chapter 4, verse 35 to 41. Our main text, Mark chapter 4, 35 to 41. And this is the story of Jesus calms a storm. Jesus has been doing these miracles. And then it says in verse 35, pardon me, it says, as evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross over to the other side of the lake. I love this. Jesus is giving them instructions. He's the rabbi, he's the leader. He's saying, this is where we're going. I don't know about you. Have you ever heard Jesus ask you to do something? Direct you to do something, say, hey, this is what I want you to do. This is where I want you to go. Jesus is saying this to the disciples. So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up shouting, teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown? They're frantic in this place. And Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, silence, be still. Suddenly the wind stopped and there was great calm. Then he asked them, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? The disciples were absolutely terrified. Who is this man? They asked each other. Even the wind and the waves obey him. Follow Jesus, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Just do what he says, they said. I don't know about you, but it's like that with our lives. But straight after, they follow Jesus and they jump in the boat and they set sail. Soon, a fierce storm comes. I'm not sure if it's only me, but each time it seems like I take a step of faith, each time Jesus asks me to do something in my life, it seems from somewhere out of nowhere, some sort of fierce storm on the external seems to happen. Can anyone say amen to that? We take those steps of faith and that happens. And it was like when I was landscaping, and I don't know what the phenomenon is, but it seems to happen every time. I'd be landscaping and I'd gather all these piles of branches and sticks and logs, and I'd build a bonfire. And there'd be the stillest day ever. And anyone who's ever done this before will attest to this. It's the stillest day ever. You put some fuel on the fire, and as soon as you light the match and hit the fuel,